When I was going through my previous videos trying to figure out which character guides were outdated and which ones weren't, I found that there was a recurring pattern for the ones that needed to be updated. Generally, the character guides that needed updating either do so because new items, stamps, and other tools were introduced which give them better options for their play pattern, or their skills got reworked in a way that added more depth to what you need to do. Hakos Baelz falls under both of these categories. Bei's starting weapon, Play Dice, throws a dice in front of her which deals damage. However, the dice's damage is indicated by the number, with 1 dealing the lowest damage and 6 dealing the highest damage. At max level, she shoots out 3 dice instead. Nothing special. Bei's first skill, Rat NG, now called Harbinger of Chaos, went through some changes. Before, it boosted your crit chance by 30% but tanked your damage in return, with the damage nerf being negated when you maxed out the skill. Now, the crit chance only increases by 30% when you max the skill out and the damage nerf is gone entirely. Instead, she gets an additional ability where every time Bei lands a crit, she has a small chance of filling up some of her special meter. This is a decent change, because beforehand, the skill felt really bad to use until you maxed it out. Now, it's not as debilitating and Bei has a much more forgiving early game. Her second skill, Critical Hit, got changed to Rat's Ninja Way. However, the skill works the same as before. If Bei lands a critical hit, it will roll again to try to proc a second critical hit that deals 4 times the damage. This stacks additively with other bonuses to crit damage and uses the same crit chance that Bei has, so I recommend boosting her crit chance as high as you can get. Her last skill, Down Under, didn't receive any changes. Any enemy she damages has a small chance to be flipped for 2 seconds, which they can't move. It's a weird skill, but it can mitigate a horde of enemies trying to kill you, though keep in mind that it doesn't work on enemies that are pre-programmed to move in specific patterns. They'll still keep moving, just upside down. Bei's special attack, Absolute Chaos, boosts her haste by 1000%, allowing her to fire off all of her weapons at a ridiculous rate. Thanks to the changes to Harbinger of Chaos, it's evident that Bei has been somewhat retooled to be built around firing off her special attack, and for good reason. It's one of the best special attacks in the game. However, it still shares the same caveats that it did back in 0.3. For one, it's only as powerful as the number of weapons you have. Firing this special attack with only her dice is going to be significantly weaker than if you fired it off with 4 collab weapons, meaning getting a full loadout of weapons is essential when playing Bei. The second caveat is that since it works by boosting her haste into overdrive, any weapon that isn't affected by haste, like Stream of Tears, BL Fujoshi, or Absolute Wall, won't work with Bei, and as such should be avoided. Dragonfire isn't affected by haste either, but I also know that many people will ignore that for the sake of getting Holy Fire. Granted, the process of getting Holy Fire will be painful for Bei because it requires Gorilla's Paw, which negates the crit chance she is so dependent upon, which is why I personally avoid it. So obviously, weapons and collabs affected by haste are pretty much what you want to get. I recommend grabbing something like Breathe in Asakoko, Psycho Axe, or Ian's Curse as soon as possible. Not only are all of these decent weapons that will make her special attack stronger, but all 3 have collabs that work decently with Bei. It is important to note that while many collabs do get buffs to their haste, most weapons have a stat property called an attack delay, and Bei's special attack doesn't reduce that in any way, so it's best to get weapons that don't have a high attack delay. Interestingly, most non-collab weapons tend to have a low attack delay compared to collabs, so a strategy of non-collab weapons is actually viable, especially when you factor in the nerfs collabs took back in 0.7. For items, I highly recommend Focus Shades, since it gives a massive boost to the critical chance of all ranged and multi-shot weapons, which generally are the best weapons to get for crit-based characters. Candy Kingdom Sweets is also a good pick, as its chance of a second hit means another chance to deal crits. A healing item is also a good idea, since Bei has 0 healing in her own kit, though I guess you can mitigate that with a health potion, though I still say the dash is better. Since her kit is now built around firing off Absolute Chaos as much as possible, Idol Costume is a must-have for her, and if you get Idol Costume, then you should also go for Hololive, the super collab made with Idol Concert, which I'd argue is her best super collab. So that's Bei. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Please let me know who you'd like to see next. Be sure to like and subscribe for future videos, and happy holocuring.